So today I got something a little bit different than usual, and I'm gonna be talking about my first impressions with Guild Wars 2 Gentil Wilds, which is a brand new expansion that was literally just released 2 days ago. Now, this video is done in collaboration with ArenaNet, and I don't usually do these types of videos, but they had offered me early access to check out this expansion, so I've had a few days to go through the game, and I know a lot of you guys are playing Guild Wars 2, have played it, or are interested in playing it and are very familiar with the game, so I thought it would actually be something you might be interested in, and I might as well check out the game myself as I've never gotten time to it. Now, in fact, this is actually my first impressions with not just Guild Wars 2 Gentil Wilds, but Guild Wars 2 in general, and honestly I thought it would be a good opportunity to try out this MMORPG with some hands-on experience, because I've known about it pretty much since release, but I've never actually gotten to trying it myself, and I didn't know what to expect. But I gotta say, completely honestly, I've actually had quite a bit of time with this game. So Gentil Wilds is the 5th expansion for Guild Wars 2 that was literally just released 2 days ago, and while to me this seems more like a new installment as opposed to a game-changing expansion, it is actually bringing some pretty exciting features, which we'll cover in a bit, one of them being player housing, which completely blew my mind in regards to how robust it actually is. In regards to the story, you just kinda get into it right off the bat. I mean, the expansion and the intro seems very chill, like there is no crazy sense of urgency. Honestly, I've gotten a huge exploring, open world vibe to it. It doesn't feel like there is some world-destroying threat or that we're at the brink of destruction of the world and that you're racing against the clock, but you're just kind of following a report which ultimately leads you to this Isle of Gentil, which is essentially this northern region that was previously too dangerous to navigate, but now it is possible to access it. You establish relations with these lowland Kodan, which are these super cool looking giant bears, which honestly I hoped would be playable, as I'd totally play one, but I ended up playing a Char, which is sort of similar, still pretty cool, but it's not really a Kodan. What I've noticed is that the map itself and the way everything is designed seems very tailored towards exploration, and that while you're obviously, being led into the activities you need to do for the main quest line and for the story to progress, a lot of it feels like you're kind of left to your own devices and you need to figure things out. For example, you got these quests which are based around areas for activities, so it's essentially just explore the village, figure it out, help the people, get to know the area, as opposed to, go to this place or to the other place and collect of these. You got a ton of interesting activities which teaches you about the Kodan and their life in the village, so you're smelting ore, you're sparring their warriors and helping them control their Warclaw. Now this brings us to one of the biggest features of the new expansion, and that is, in fact, the Warclaw. So I gotta say, I've heard about Guild Wars 2 mount system, I know it is pretty robust, but I've actually found it incredibly interesting as I've gotten actual hands-on experience. Like, there are actual abilities with the mounts, and there is a lot more to it than just mounting up and getting from A to B. You can kind of tie in these combos and make some really fun moves. Now, what they're bringing in Gentil Wilds is a revamp to the Warclaw mount, which you actually get almost immediately as you get into the questline. You tame this wild Warclaw, and at first I thought it was just a random giant cat ground mount, but it ended up being like this half-flying thing with how many combos and abilities you can do with it. Also, through the questlines, you can learn how these bear people, the Kodan, are tied to these creatures and how it is a significant part of their culture. However, the feature that I found the most interesting out of all of them in this new Guild Wars 2 expansion is the housing system called Homesteads. Now, honestly, at first I've gotten the impression that this is just one of the new features of the expansion, but to me this seems to be like the feature, and I was honestly blown away by how robust this actually is. It's not some little farm that you can build with a few options or some, crazy this rent system where you're essentially playing a mobile game, having to check on it all day and do all this stuff. It's really detailed, like this pretty large plot of land where it doesn't even feel like you're playing an MMORPG. It honestly feels like you're playing Rust or Minecraft or something of the sort, like some sort of a sandbox game. It works by you having the ability to spawn like this door, which is essentially like a portal to your house, but it's not just a house, which is obviously why it's called Homesteads, not housing. You can of course build a house with a very large option for details, ornaments for the interior and the like, but you can actually do so much more than that. You can literally put down trees and make your own forests. You can make a little campsite where you can chill out. You can even make certain types of puzzles and jumping puzzles with the way these systems work. You can change the night and day for your place, but most importantly, this really is a social thing, so you can get an account-wide personal instance that you can then experience with your friends and guild members. I know, obviously, this is not everyone's cup of tea, not just in Guild Wars, but player housing in general, and that not everyone is too much into this, but as someone that has spent a lot of time role-playing and that is really into the immersion side of MMORPGs, I literally feel like this is the dream and something that you can really turn this from this MMORPG game where you're adventuring and exploring, that you can turn it into like this your online version of a home. Like, it's very immersive. Like, it's not just this preset plot with a few options, but it really feels like a game within a game where you can add all these items and make them ridiculously large or ridiculously small, and I feel like no two homesteads can be the same thing. So honestly, I gotta say, I was really taken back by how developed this system is, as I don't really have much experience with player housing and MMORPGs that is this well developed. Other than this in the early access I was given, I've also tested out the new Spear Combat, which is this new weapon system. From what I've gathered previously, it was designed for exclusive underwater combat, but the way it just changes your spell and how everything works is something I found very interesting. Also to note on the combat system in general, I've had a really interesting experience with combat overall as well, as I haven't played Guild Wars 2 previously. I've honestly found it pretty straightforward, not really hard to get into as a WoW player. While technically there are a lot of options, I do feel like I've grasped the basics really quick. Like, it wasn't really that hard to figure out, and I find the options of like switching all your spells from a flamethrower to a rifle to grenades really interesting, and really something that makes this more than just, regular, attack the enemy and spam the few spells. Furthermore, the map of the Isle of Gentir is really interesting, and while these Coden people seem really chill and stoic, the land itself actually seems pretty cursed. There are some pretty creepy vibes to it, even though it actually looks pretty good. When you start out with these bear people, you kind of imagine that this would be some type of a one with nature harmonic place, but there is kind of more to it. It's definitely a dangerous place, which is of course the necessary ingredient for adventure and exploring. Although I've honestly really played Guild Wars 2 for a few days. I mean, I've started some regular leveling, I've invested some time in the new expansion through the early access, so I can't really do this like outright analysis of the game, as I would honestly have to invest at least a few hundred hours to be able to get a good look. So this is more like a first impression, first look, especially from the perspective of never having experienced Guild Wars 2 before, but honestly, I found it quite fun. I've actually played even more than I needed for this video, so I would recommend checking out Gentir Wilds, if anything, just to check out the new homestead system and how it works, because honestly, it's really robust and it's super fun. So check out the link in the description, try out the free version of Guild Wars 2 right now, and start playing Gentir Wilds. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on Is WoW 2 Coming After the World Soul Saga by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Ancient Training by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!